Hey. Happy New Year to all of my crypto friends. This is Big Jonas coming to you guys live. First show of 2020. Hope everybody had a great New Year's Eve. Friends, family, watching the ball drop, enjoying some cocktails, potentially other things. But 2020, I can't believe it's finally here. It took almost 20 years of this decade to get here, but we have, or this millennium and the century to get here. But here we are, and here we are looking at Bitcoin, still ranging in the low 7K area, an area of price action that Bitcoin has been in numerous times through its history. How many times, how many analyses have we done of this 7K area, whether it was acting as resistance the first time it was touched, as support area the second time it was touched, as support again and again, finding that resistance, finding support, finding resistance, finding support. Finally, that last area, 7,400, looks like was where we topped off here, and the bear market was in full stride. Fast forward from September of 18 to May of 19, and boom shakalaka. Not only did we blast through it when we initially were actually hitting it, but we did find that intra-wick support and continuation of our bull market in the first part of 2019, only to find ourselves back in here as 2019 came to a close. Whew, what a year ending we just had. Remember to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Big Jonas. Remember to hit that thumbs up button if you do enjoy my content. Check out fluxtradinggroup.com. Put a lot of great content out there with some like-minded traders. Very excited for what the new year will have to offer. So check us out at fluxtradinggroup.com, because Bitcoin is going to have a tremendous 2020, I believe, offering significant opportunities for trade on both the long and the short side. I would like to start off today's show talking about Fibonacci and where we can assess where the market currently is right now. Now, if you want to find the areas where we constantly see support holding, where we constantly want to see support holding, where we constantly want to see trend changes, it is the golden pocket area. It is the golden pocket retrace between 61.8 and 65. I'm not sure why that says 66 there. What the heck? Oh, that's why. There we go. And what this does is this brings us into an area where we expect to find, where we expect to find support on the way down and resistance on the way up. And as you can see, starting from our swing low, once again, where's my zero line? I keep doing that. Starting from our swing low all the way down here, $3,200, and going to our swing high at 13.8, we have retraced. And not only have we retraced, but we've been finding significant areas of price, how do I say this? Price response to hitting these areas as we back tested them as support. The initial touch of the 382 acted as support numerous times. Notice where we found that resistance on our phantom pump here. We could not, for 3 days in a row, we did try to get above the 382, and that was found as major resistance. We came all the way down, found a little support at our 50% retracement. Again, taking 50% of our bull run off the table here, and we still were not able to hold that as support. And once again, we find ourselves down in the golden pocket range. Now, initially, when we came very close to the 618, We did find that very nice move there, but have given back basically more than 100% of that move, and ranging we are. So I can say, all right, we're finding support in the 618 to the golden pocket ratio. This is an area where we see support hold numerous times, and we expect it to hold again. And this should be a great buying opportunity for Bitcoin, right? Well, that is definitely a possibility. We've seen this area happen as support before. It could be argued this would be a great area for consolidation and finding that support. The historic meaning of the high 6Ks to low 7Ks is obviously quite apparent. It was really where I'm almost going to put right there. It was literally where the market, after months of consolidation last year, listen, fell off a cliff. Okay, so we are on the top side, the upper side of this area, and I can say, okay, well, we're on the upper side of this area here. We were finding it as major resistance, and now we're finding it as major support. So bear market over, right? We're out of the woods here. We're going to find this support and keep on drifting higher. Well, sure, that is definitely a possibility because of the historic significance of this area, and the fact that the major resistance it gave finally breaking through, and the fact that we did find that continuation of our bull market early support to the wick there, basically finding that support and continuing our bull market. Now, we have touched this area, this line, 2 times now. Okay, we did it on the initial touch, and we're like, oh, okay, we're bullish. We found it. Yay. And then we did it again on our secondary touch, where on the intra-wick, we actually did break below. And really on the closing candle, we did break below. So we have resistance, support, support, support. So, okay, support is holding. This is good. We have found that our volume keeps declining, though. Well, that's not very good. Literally since our peak Bitcoin of 2019. Look at our volume profile. We keep putting in lower highs. Here's our big high. Here's our lower high. Here's our lower high. Here's our lower high. Here's our lower high. So our volume is saying, whoa, okay, maybe we're not finding a very good buy volume, but we've definitely released some of our sell volume here. We've definitely kind of eased the selling pressure that we are seeing in our price action, but that's not giving us a lot of confidence, is it? That we can find a good amount of support here, and that the market is going to be convinced that this area is strong support after having been support numerous times throughout 2019. But can we be skeptical? A couple things I want to focus on. I did want to start with our CMF. Listen, this is basically a clear channels here up. We basically have this channel here. Okay, and then we have our parabolic expansion. Now we have our channel here on the down low, okay? But we have not had our parabolic fallout, which would be kind of that mirror that we may expect. Now we can get pretty low here. We can get pretty low in our CMF. But as you can see, once we do establish a specific trend, and we can see our trend of bullish channel on our bull market, right? 2015 through really 2017, and then our bearish channel right here of our bear market when we topped off and kind of heading back down here. As you can see, we were actually losing our money flow as we're getting towards the latter half there. So we have our up, we have our down, we have our up, we have our down. Now, the down, when do we know this is over? Well, I want to see this break out of this channel here. And more importantly, I want to see my CMF get above our zero line, something that has determined a bullish market in Bitcoin price action. We have a couple times where we can dip below it. Okay, but these dips are very quick. They're almost V-bottom dips here. Okay, and because of that, these were very short-lived, and in the price action were probably very good, decent buying opportunities here. for these short-term moves until we set the new trend. Now that we're ratcheted this down below our zero line, it just shows that the money flow is not there yet, coming in yet to sustain a more bullish rally. I did want to focus on the MACD, the moving average convergence divergence, because you can clearly see we do these kind of ebb and flows here, and these ebb and flows, they do set a kind of an interesting time parameter. I want to start with our bullish ones. Okay, got a 25-day bullish one right there. We have a 17-day bullish one right there. We have a 12-day bullish one right there. We have a 19-day bullish one right there. We have a 30-day bullish one right there. And this most latest one over 33 days of a positive histogram. And the reason I'm doing this is we see that after a certain amount of time, something between 17 and 30 days of positive histogram MACD, then we tend to get a rollover. We tend to get our bearish MACD take place, our bearish histogram begin to set, our bearish crossover in our indicators. So we have been drifting up with a bullish histogram while Bitcoin's price action remains pretty darn flat. And this time horizon could be signaling that we are ready for another flip from a positive histo and a positive ranging indicators here to something that could go very negative due to the historic time horizons of these mountains and valleys. So we're due for something here. We're due for a reversal strictly based on the timing of these histograms. Now remember, this is a lagging indicator, so it will take several days probably to get us below our zero line to see that cross be confirmed. As well, you can see we have a couple fake outs on the way. Here's our bear cross only to find support. Here's our bear cross only to find support. But a second time around, a second bear cross would be very skeptical and a very ominous sign. And once again, we are still below our zero line. So I do not see this as a charging or a MACD that's preparing for some sort of major Mount Everest move here to take shape, just because of how long we have been in this positive histogram area. Look at our funding here. Now we were in this negative funding rate here. This was actually favoring a bullish price action. Again, we're looking at this from a counter trading perspective. But as you can see, the most recent flip here is ever so subtly change directions here, and that would actually favor more bearish price action. Again, counter trading where the open interest in derivatives are. We can see how clear and justly this literally marked our top when we got a peak like this, and kind of literally marked our bottoming. I know this wasn't our distinct bottom. I think we actually found something a little lower here, but as you can see, these major moves outside of our standard deviation in this current market, and then you can see what really a move out of standard deviation can be in the extremes of Bitcoin 20K, and then the beginning of the capitulation process from that. So we are just dead sick here with just a hair above the zero line here, which doesn't necessarily mean it's bullish or bearish, but that the longs would be having to pay potentially a little bit more, to keep these open positions open, if that were the case. We can see our Stochh RSI, very, very clean double hump here, one up, one down. We can see we've done this a couple times in terms of dueling patterns, if you will. And we are on our way back to our zero line here. Very good possibility of that, unless we get some sort of a curve up here, and that would allow us to find support somewhere in this area before doing that. So there's still running room on the downside here on the daily Stoke RSI. And that is saying that the bulls have yet to prove any kind of upward trajectory here. Our unbalanced volume has been very, I got an alert here. The unbalanced volume has definitely been very accurate on the way up, basically showing a bullish divergence here. It was advancing significantly higher than the price action was at the time. You can see where we're horizontally finding that support, again corresponding with Bitcoin's historic price action in this area. And then once again, there it is. So we are seeing that support hold. We would like that to see, but we're not seeing any kind of bullish divergence in this playing out as the on-balance volume I would like to see begin to spike up higher, potentially showing a more prelude to a more bullish Bitcoin. We're just not really seeing that yet. Let's clear the air. Let's go over a couple more indicators. Then I want to do some higher time frame stuff, because not only did we close out the year, we closed out the 6-month, the 3-month, and the 1-month chart. Daily Bollinger's very sideways, still not that tight. Okay, we know what tight can be. This is tight down here, tighter here, a little tighter here. We're still kind of wide, and this gives momentum in multiple directions. I think it is notable, though, that we have twice wicked out as we keep approaching our upper Bollinger. So to get a close, above the upper BB or a close below the lower Bollinger, those moves would be significant. Anything short of that is kind of just ranging, and that's definitely where we are currently. Daily Ichimoku, I remember doing a tweet when we were in this price action over here and just seeing how this was just hugging like to perfection our lower cloud span resistance until it fell out. And because of that fallout, you can see how much lower our cloud has gotten. There was over 9K here, and now we're almost at 8K. So we've actually fallen almost $1,000. Failed to get up into this area here. And if we were able to get kind of a bullish price action pump, we can see how significant this resistance would be as our lower cloud span and our Kaijin Sen are in confluence. And we're actually making this cloud more bearish. We can see that we are spreading our cloud. We are nowhere near any kind of a Kumo twist. And as you can see, this was very forewarned here when we did have our bearish twist here, just as this was very forewarned as we had our bullish twist here. This was our first bullish twist of our Kumo cloud, and expansion was definitely on the way. This was our bearish twist. Remember, we were only at $8,200 here, but that has held continuously, and this keeps going. A fall below Tenkan Sen at 7K would be notable because it actually did to the penny act as initial support when touched. EMA 1226, these are my favorite EMAs here. We're still in the bear cross. Not only are they breathing the bear cross, but now we're resisting EMA 12 on the backside touch up here. And that's very interesting because every time we've had a bullish move and gotten above our 26, we've given it back the next day, here and here. And now we're finding on declining volume that resistance. So a bullish move here and a bullish cross would definitely be significant, but this kind of reminds me, this here kind of reminds me of this little bit here, where we had this dump. Okay, there was the spread. We can even do this Here was the spread, a little too far apart. Okay, our price action came back up, and we were hugging here, still in the bear cross, still in the bear cross, and then we fall off a cliff. Here was our fall here. We're hugging here, still in a bear cross, still in a bear cross. Fall off a cliff. This definitely reminds me of this price action here. Frankly, kind of until proven otherwise. And our MA 50, again, major resistance still holding. And not only does it continue to hold, but as you can see, we now have all three moving averages beginning to turn around. I remember it was probably right here, end of November, I put a tweet out saying this is the first time that the MA 200 has started to decline. Okay, we can see as soon as this MA 200 began to roll over, okay, the bear market was basically confirmed here, even though we had a couple moves down, up, down, up, down, up, down. The significance of this rollover was apparent. Now, of course, this is our MA 200. It's a 200 period moving average, so of course it's a lagger. Okay, just as we had our upturn here when Bitcoin was already at 7K, but still he had another 6K of price action that followed even after this turn here. So now we're turning below. Okay, we definitely have lost a lot of our bullish momentum here, but as you can see, just because we just started the turn doesn't necessarily mean that we are out of the woods in any capacity. We might even be just beginning our adventure into the woodlands, where many bears do stir. So basically, that's where we're seeing our indicators and oscillators on a daily time frame. Let's talk about patterns. Before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friends in the chat room. Mayak, J Constant, Mattis S, KKC, what's up, Todd Schultz? Hey, Timeless Being, what's up, my friend? Cornholio, Bradbury 14, Treasure Right, what's up, Tariq? Sick Bill, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. 57 of my closest friends watching me. Please hit that thumbs up button if you do enjoy my content here. What's up, Andre? What's up, Mahmood? Hey, Jane. Hey, Happy New Year to you. It's good to see some familiar faces here. So let's talk about a couple of things. I want to go to log scale, and I want to talk about the parallel. And I mean, this guy's been pretty accurate, right? We have clear areas of resistance when we get close to our line here. Bull trap of all bull traps right there. And then on a lower line here, when we get close to it, we find, support. It's not only to the penny, it's not always to the date, but at some point we do get this bump consistently, happening as we get close to the line here. And you could argue we're on the underside or just on the overside or just basically right there of our center line here of, multiple resistances, and we also did find it as support on a couple occasions along the way. So we do have the parallel that is still holding and still taking shape. Now, it could be argued as well that we have our drifting head and shoulders pattern here. Now, the longer that this price action here goes sideways, I will negate this as a head and shoulders from a measured move perspective. By measured move, I'd be looking for something like this to be the downward price trajectory of something if this were to continue and the neckline was to break. Something else we can be looking at from a more bullish standpoint, obviously, is the chance of this inverse head and shoulders with our shoulder, our neckline just a little bit lower, and we're looking for that one more lower hump here to bring us out of it. And then thusly we would be looking for something like this in some sort of a measured move, basically back to 8,500, which would still find that resistance right there. So, couple scenarios that are still playing out here, but of course, the head and shoulders is not confirmed until more or less it completes its pattern as a whole. Now, let's talk about a couple things here. So I did earlier in the show, I did the Fibonacci from swing high to swing low, or sorry, from swing low to swing high of the year. But let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's look at it from our all-time high, okay, to our low, and to see that our golden pocket was the major resistance that basically stopped our bull market in our tracks here at the end of June. And then, thusly, on the way down, finding support and resistance at various levels. As you can see, the 236 right here is still holding, and it's still holding, and look how the price action is just hitting it to the penny on multiple days here of support, 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 support. Okay, and that's notable because the chart is saying, all right, this 236, this area of base camp that was held as support, when it was broken through, held support, broke through the 382, held support, broke through the 50, held support, and then finally got stopped here at our golden pocket. We're now holding our 236, and if we fail to hold that, there's a big open gap here between then, obviously, and our zero line. So it's mongo important that the 7K area and the 236 base camp does hold if we want to continue to see this momentum take shape. And let's just say hypothetically, that our low, could be in from this move here. We could look at it basically in terms of this way, where if this is our high, 13.8, and this is our low at $6,400 here, then I would be targeting the first Fibonacci area of resistance, the 236, at a little under $8,200, right? With the potential overall target to our golden pocket a little over 11K. Now, wouldn't that be a nice bullish scenario? Again, that's only under the assumption that our low of $6,400 is the low of this pullback here. And once we do a little more consolidation, onward we will go. This gets completely thrown out of the water if we break below $6,400 once again. I actually think we'll be going a lot lower if we get down there, for that third time. So these are scenarios that you guys should keep in the back of your head, because if the price action does fail to hold them, as support and as resistance, what would that entail? Now, I do have a question in the chat room from Tariq. Hey, Big Jonas, what's your view on the whole tulip fiasco? Wasn't CSW, Craig S. Wright, supposed to get his private keys via courier pigeon? Yes, that is something that was supposed to happen, I guess, today. And we will know that. I know Vamp has talked about this before. It's funny. This is actually about taxes. This is the real issue here. If Wright is supposed to basically unlock the key to the Tulip Trust and turn over, 800,000 Bitcoin to the Kleinman estate, then the Kleinman estate would then have to pay taxes on that significantly. Really? And because of that, that is a major reason why the liquidation of potential Bitcoin would have to be done, and the liquidation of that major price action move would basically have to be so sustained and would put so much liquidity into the market that it would really crash the price and be very detrimental to a lot of the charts and to a lot of crypto. Not only for it to begin, but the sense that there could be hundreds of thousands of coin, dumped OTC on the open market, and that's very concerning if that is the case. Now, this is Craig S. Wright. Lots of controversy, and a lot of things have basically debunked that he does have access to the Tulip Trust, which could contain, 1 million Bitcoin, which is a lot of cheddar. So that is something of note. 1 second here. So we don't know, but we will know soon enough. And the reason we'll know soon enough is because we have a tax deadline, right? And our tax deadline is, April 15th. So we'll know in the next few months if that liquidation will have to take place to pay those fees. Um, so those are my thoughts. Is it possible? Absolutely. Frankly, I don't think that Craig Wright wants to crash the Bitcoin market. But he has his own coin. He's got his Bitcoin SV, Satoshi's Vision, which could be a reason why he wouldn't care so much to dump a lot of coin if that were the case. And that would actually, in theory, prevent or show a better, I don't want to say use case, but potentially show more value to the SV token than is currently in the market there. Let's go to the weekly just real quick here. We did close out our week a couple days ago. Again, not much showing here. Very low volume. You can see our 14-day average here definitely on the decline. And that corresponds with our RSI under 50. And not only is it under 50, but as you can see, we are below. Anyway, this was Bitcoin 6,300 here. This is Bitcoin 7,300 here, and we have a much lower RSI. So I don't like that. I really don't like that. And frankly, it looks like it's putting in some sort of a bear flag kicker right here in its formation. Again, CMF has a little erection here, but still well below our zero line. And our MACD, even though we are slowly curving here, we are still in negative histogram. Nothing very convincing on the step up. Oops. And and nothing really convincing in that price model there. Yes, we are angled higher here in our Stoke, and I actually mentioned this on a tweet or something a couple weeks or so ago that this could be an interesting channel here as we get into the year where we could see an upward lift here and another 5 to get us to our upper line here. Do you guys remember how long we were up here? So long were we up here bullishly all through March, all through April, all through May, and then finally our June top off here was this last little spike, boom. So this could be our expanding bugle of stochastic price action here as we go through. But this will take some time, obviously, and this could be a goods case scenario from a bullish perspective there. Don't want to see this, right? But again, that's a possibility because we've done something like that before. We haven't exactly come straight up once we start doing that, but we tend to go in different channels here when we do our Stoke here. Okay, we just closed out the month of December. Here's our candle, and I want to talk about it in relation to some indicators here. We have found support for a second month in a row on our middle Bollinger line. That's good news. You can see back here, August, September, not October, but we did it before, right? Finding support, closing below it, getting rejected, and then boom. Now, what's notable now is we're still incredibly wide here. Just incredibly wide here on our monthly Bollingers. Upper BB 11.2, lower BB 2.2. Almost $9,000 separates our upper and lower BB on the monthly chart. And the reason I bring this up is because I feel that this will take a long time to tighten our Bollingers. You can see, let me go to stamp here. Whoa, lots of interesting stuff happening here. You can see that once our bull market really started to come into effect from a tightening Bollinger spread, we just rode that upper BB all the way up to Bitcoin 20K. When we initially broke out of it back here in 2013 and 2013 here, there was the support there was the break, and for a year almost, right, we were below that middle Bollinger. Now we're below it here for just a matter of months, right? Came back up. Oops. And we are still holding that support. So that's good news, right? When we hold our middle Bollinger support, we can target upper BBs for sure. You know that we've never touched our lower Bollinger in the entire price history of Bitcoin, going all the way back here. Even when we were very tight here, we've never touched our lower Bollinger on the monthly scheme. I believe we will do that at some point. Not necessarily any month soon, our Bollinger lower BB will probably rise somewhat, but as you can see, it's been pretty stable ever since. Monthly Ichimoku, okay, we can still see our convergence span is still quite a ways away, and we can see we are below Tenkan-sen and Kaijin-sen resistance. We can see our MA50, which again hasn't been touched since way back here in September of 2015, and when it was touched, actually was like the bump that Bitcoin needed to propel itself to a no bull market. We got close here, but no cigar. And now you can see that's risen from 3 grand back in January a year ago to almost 5 grand where it is now. And that's definitely notable because now that resistance, or sorry, now that support is much higher. And you can see our MA 100 on our monthly has just shown up well down here in the 2K range. TD sequential, we are on a red 5. Now, we have closed a red 4 below a red 3 and the red 3 below a red 2. These are still bearish, okay, signals here in the TD, and the monthly could suggest another 4 more months here before we get some sort of an actual price flip. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to close this month above 8 grand. Looks like $8,300 to turn this red 5 into a green 1. And that's showing us we still have a ways to go. What else? Oh yeah, EMA 12, EMA 26. Now this is very interesting here because we never actually bear crossed here. We actually were able to hold our bullish cross all the way. And as you can see, we still have a lot more running room sideways before we test our 26. And we pull these a lot tighter to that potential where we actually get another ricochet or that bearish cross. So we still have several more months where I think we could drift sideways to lower to tighten these EMAs on this particular time frame. You know, not much to talk about on the indicators here. These are such a higher time frame here. You can see we're just holding above 50 here on our RSI. That's okay. But as you can see, we have our low, we have our high, we have our higher low. We are still in equilibrium as it speaks. You can see our MACD. We have started a second month of a bearish histo, and we are well in our way here to that that bearish cross that we had seen previously play out and still playing out here on this monthly time frame. So that's where we stand in the monthly chart. You know, as far as these lower wicks go, yeah, we have for 2 months found support here. But look at the trend here: upper wick, upper wick, upper wick, upper wick, upper wick. Not even an upper wick, okay? We were so weak in November, we just had a little upper wick here, a couple $100, and a big collapse. And then this month here was one of our tightest trading ranges. You know, the low was 64, the high was 76. So almost a $1,200 trading range in the month was the smallest one we've had since 41, 51, since really back here in last April. So from a tweezer bottom perspective, I'm really not seeing it yet, especially because our volume last month was the lowest volume we have had. Basically, all of 2019 was our lowest volume last month. So that's definitely something of note as well. Um, so that's our monthly. Now, not only did we close our monthly, we did close out our quarterly candle. And again, nothing really spectacular to really write home about this monthly candle here. Again, you can see how so wide our Bollingers are on this highest time frame here. Middle Bollinger support on the monthly is at $4,200 and slightly rising. We also closed out our half a year candle. Now, what a difference the first half of the year was to our second half of the year. And as you can see, the similarities between these upper wicks here, right, and these upper wicks here, it's kind of notable. We had upper wick, lower high, and then we got, about maybe 30% up the body of the previous month here before we put in a lower low. That would put Bitcoin maybe getting to 8K over the next 6 month time frame if a similar move would happen. And then the lower low would put us somewhere in that 4K range potentially over the next 6 months here to keep this pattern the same. Big green candle, red, red, big green candle, red, red. That's how I'm seeing the 6 month. We did give a lot of our price action back. As you know, we're holding in that golden pocket range, but to give back 60%, we did the same thing, and then we had a follow up red candle, green, red, potential follow up red candle. And then lastly, here, our yearly candle. What a year it was in Bitcoin. Obviously, our third most highest range from low to high, 3K, 13K, a $10,000 range in the price action of Bitcoin. Very large upper wick, by far our largest rejection here. Now, could this be a bottom hammer? It could, sure, but the problem with that being a bottom hammer is on a yearly time frame, it's kind of hard to say something's a bottom hammer from a yearly perspective. And sure, we were able to maintain this in a green perspective candle, but there's nothing that says that buying was comfortable in really any part of this upper wick here. And I think we will test parts of this upper wick going into next year, but I also feel we'll be testing parts of this lower candle body going into next year as well. And listen, we've been on a volume decline for the past 3 years here. So I'd love to get bullish in Bitcoin. Nothing would make me happier. Listen, I want Bitcoin to succeed. I want Bitcoin to have a very bullish 2020. I would make a lot more money. I'm sure a lot of you guys would do as well. But I have to be just very honest and clear with what I'm saying and what I'm seeing here. And even though we've had this very strong pullback in price action, there's absolutely running room for this to go lower. Remember, we can still be doing our ABC corrective pattern here when we're determining the extension of our pullback, and we're seeing that we are on the underside of that 382 resistance, and a potential target for that extension of our golden pocket literally brings us back down to some sort of a double bottom here, where you take out all the longs from 2019 and you just break it ever so slightly, right, with a lower low before finding that major support here and the continuation to go higher. That would be a very interesting scenario if we had that play out this year, for sure. But what also we could be looking at would be the hold. Go back to log here. Would be the subsequent hold, of this line, right? This line of support, of Bitcoin support that has held support consistently here for almost 5 years. We've ridden up this line numerous times. Ride it, ride it, ride it. Ride it, ride it, ride it, ride it, ride it, ride it. Of course, we've bounced numerous times. Nice little bounce, good support, bounce, bounce, support, support. Okay, but how many times are we going to hit this line just like a ball hits the ground, comes up, hits the ground, but doesn't get as high? How many times are we going to do this, right? Before the support fails. Remember, we've had price history below this line. Okay, early Bitcoin, young Bitcoin was below this green line here. We've been above it, okay, for the past 7 years, basically, okay, but that doesn't mean that we have to hold above it. And there is a scenario where we do drop below it, even if for a certain time, and only, of course, with the reaccumulation of it as support would be quite notable. So don't think that this can't happen. Don't think just because this line of support has held for such a long time that it can continue to do so and will continue to do so, as it doesn't necessarily mean that that's really the perimeter and the state of play, that we could be in. Um, I wanna talk a little bit about Elliott wave theory here, just very briefly. I watched a couple videos from some people that I respect from that are Elliott wave traders, and kind of got a variation of scenarios and counts that that we could be in here. This um, 1, 2, 3, 4, just holding over 1, 5, or are we in this 1, 2, 3, 4, truncated 5? Or is 4 still going on and 5 hasn't played out? What we do see in Elliott wave is if the 1 to 2 is relatively short, then our 3 to 4 is actually quite longer. And as long as 4 doesn't drift below 1, which would be about $1,200 to $1,400, then we could still be in this 5-wave uptrend, even if Bitcoin does trickle down that low. And that would basically just be a very large, probably an irregular flat corrective of 4 before we take that journey up to our 5th wave here. Now, of course, our 3rd wave would be quite extended. And, because of that, we would, really quite extended, probably the 4, the 5, 6, 1, 1, 2, 8. And so I wouldn't be looking for wave 5 to go exponentially higher there, but it could definitely do something of a scenario here. Again, we don't know how low we're going to go here. But if we did get closer to just above our wave 1 here, that 5th wave extension could, bring us above 50K, or even to a 3 or a 4, 618 extension, closer to 100,000. So there's your Bitcoin, route to 100K. But for the market to be convinced that we have turned the corner and that this area of Bitcoin price action is strong enough, then I think there's definitely the bigger possibility that we can go a lot lower. I did want to talk about a fractal, and the fractal refers to 2013, 2014, and 2015. The question is, where are we if we are doing a fractal? Where are we in the bear market of 2013 and 2014? Are we still in this fractal? Is there even a fractal to be given? And I'll give you guys 2 scenarios. Now, some people think that we are in, kind of this realm of our fractal here. That we had our reaccumulation was in this area here, just as it was here. Let's make that green for reaccumulation. And then we just had our big expansion here, just as we did here. And then we had to kind of chill out for a while. You know, a lot of sideways price action here, right here, okay, where Bitcoin was very stable and very sideways. I don't like green. Let's just go with white. Okay, and that we're basically kind of in that consolidation period here. And that is definitely a possibility, okay? We had our ranging consolidation here, reaccumulation. There's our breakout. There's our higher high. And now we're just kind of chilling out, chilling out, chilling out until we make our next jump higher somewhere over here. Definitely a possibility. But what if we're not this far away, this far along? And what if we're actually way over here? Well, how is that possible? Well, if we look at this from just, shapes we can kind of call out here, we have a very defined, um, you know, descending triangle here, okay? And this descending triangle then breaks bullish, right? And then falls into this really nasty death channel right here. Well, let's look over here. We have our descending channel, okay? And then we have our boom, very steep climb here. Boom, very steep climb here. And then this then forms into a new death channel. A death channel which took the price action to a lower low and then a real lower low, you know? So here was our lower low and then a little bounce, and then here's our real lower low, you know? And that's a possibility that we have to keep in mind here, that we are doing the 2014 fractal, but we're doing it in a much longer period, and that would correspond with the length of our last bull market, which was very long. Okay, here was our bear market here, lasted for 2 years. Here was our bull market here, lasted for all of 15, all of 16, all of 17, 3 years. Here is our bear market now, lasting for 1 year, 2 year. So we've seen this before. And if we are actually here, actually we'd probably be somewhere around here now. Let's kind of zoom in so we can get really tight here. Okay, this is Bitcoin 3K. This goes just straight up. See how that goes just straight up here. Okay, and it goes, price range, almost 66% straight up here in a very quick amount of time. Now, granted, this went up much higher. Okay, we went up almost 300%, right? 300% over 6 months, 60% over a couple of weeks here. So how could this be, a very equivalent here? Well, it could if you think about it in terms of where we are and the fact that Bitcoin ran from $200, $20,000, that the length of this correction should take a lot longer, just because of how high Bitcoin was able to get in its bullish move here. And if this was to play out in a very similar pattern here, right? Then we definitely have some more running room to go. And really, we have a much larger descending triangle here. Or pennant, right? Descending triangle or pennant. Oops. And that's somewhere like there. That can be playing out. Now, the pennant's an interesting concept here. A bullish pennant, right? Could signify something like this. And then when the E wave completes, There we go. So our C wave would put us in, sorry, I guess A, B, C. Our C wave would put us into something more of a higher low, 3,800, maybe 4K, okay? And then our D wave here gets us back to 7K, but still with that lower high. And then that last higher low to E wave here, consolidation before expansion. That would be a gorgeous thing to see because we've seen this pattern before. And the length, the time and the length of this consolidation would blow Bitcoin. I mean, all-time highs through the roofs and then some. But this could take most of next year. You know, it really could. We don't necessarily need to be that far. Maybe we can get really lucky and we just go quickly down here and we go quickly up here, then quickly to here. And now maybe that E wave ends somewhere, I mean, almost in a year from now. But I wouldn't be surprised if we are in some sort of a consolidation pattern for quite some time here, consistently until we break through. Now, Jay Constant says Bitcoin going below 6K would be a disaster for mining difficulty going up and the halving. And that's a very good point because our halving, Bitcoin's halving, is in May. It's, where's my vertical? Let's get it exactly where it is. July, June. It's like right here. Okay, this is our next Bitcoin halving. Now, every other previous halving, there's been two of them. Bitcoin has been in a bullish uptrend. I think the last one was somewhere around, was it here? And then the one before that, I think, was somewhere, was it like here? So, halving, slow and steady uptrend, and then we really start to pump. Halving, slow and steady uptrend, and then we really start to pump. Okay? Is this time going to be different? Because frankly, we need to be in an uptrend by the time the halving starts to be consistent with the uptrend holding, and uptrend holding in every previous halving cycle. So that is something that we need to keep in mind here because historically speaking, we should be in an uptrend and it would definitely be a deviation from the historical norm if we were still in a downtrend as we get closer to May and as we approach that halving cycle. Now, the halving will do a lot in terms of miners. Remember, the mining reward will be cut in half, but also the inflation rate of Bitcoin will be now about 2%, even a little bit lower. That's meaningful. We're going to get less Bitcoin being produced, being created, and coming on the open market for the next 4 years. And that lower inflation rate will allow market forces to absorb the newly created Bitcoin while keeping the price action potentially a little more stable than we have been used to. So the halvings have been bullish in the past, but doesn't necessarily mean you have to be loaded and locked in to your major hodl position before the halving. You've had plenty of time, or at least time, I should say. Maybe not necessarily plenty of time, but a decent amount of time after the halving does take place. If you were confident that Bitcoin was in an uptrend and you wanted to take advantage of that there. So definitely there'll be a lot of stories and narratives as we get closer to the halving. We are less than 5 months away from it, and there will be a major narrative story going into the end of the first half of the year. Remember, this year was a year of, or 2019 was a year of two stories. Okay, Bitcoin goes skyrocketing in the first half of the year, gives back about 60% of that the second half of the year. Okay, now we are ready for a turnaround in price action. I mean, these things time do play out, but doesn't necessarily mean we don't necessarily have one more lower low, or at least a lot more sideways consolidation. We need a pattern here. We need a conviction pattern of bottoming to convince the market that we've basically found a good area of support and that we have the pattern to prove it. This ascending triangle, okay, was that pattern of consolidation. Okay, earlier at the end of last year, 2018, end of 2 years ago, 2018, and the way that we ran the first part of 2019, this was a pattern before it broke out. We need more of a convincing pattern to convince the market that this area of support will be one that plays out. Here is our descending triangle. Here is our ascending triangle. Maybe this time it won't be a triangle. It could be, a V bottom. It could be an inverse head and shoulders. Okay. Trying to think what else it could be. It could be, a double bottom situation, but it has to be something more meaningful and something that will probably take a couple months, really a couple months to play out to confirm that the pattern of that bottom has been established. And for now, we are still just not really seeing that kind of continuity and conviction in the market as we have started a brand new year. So with that, guys, my first show of the year. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. 76 of you guys have hung out through this entire hour. Let's see some more thumbs up. Much appreciated. Remember to hit that subscribe button as well if you appreciate my content on YouTube. I do plan to do a lot more YouTube shows. Hopefully YouTube won't do something stupid like banning crypto related topics and what have you. Hopefully that was just a glitch and we don't see something like that go on for this year here, but very excited about our opportunities that we have for 2020. There will be opportunities on the long side and on the short side as well. Other than Bitcoin, there will definitely be some altcoins that will stand out and will probably be very good trading opportunities in the new year. But in terms of hodling, that is something that you guys have to figure out based on your own risk profile, etc., etc. So with that, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Much appreciate your love and support. Welcome to 2020. I am excited. I am excited to join this and be a part of this with you. Until next time, this is Big Jonas. We will talk to you very soon. Stay safe out there. Remember to set your stop losses tight. Don't try and go for the big win. Lots of small wins can still have a lot of success doing that as well. Until next time, Big Jonas. Peace.